welcome back to Stylish Naija YouTube channel. I want to say thank you to all of my subscribers. I really appreciate you guys a whole lot for subscribing to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to cut and sew a trending flare kimono jacket. So that's what we're going to be doing, a trendy flare kimono jacket. So the fabric that I'm going to be using to do this, I'm going to make it so simple for you that even as a beginner you should be able to pull this off if you watch this video. Okay, so I have my Ankara fabric here. This is 6 yards. So I think what I'm going to be making use of is going to be about 3 yards at the end of the day. And then I have my satin here. This is doll face. This is half yard. That's what I'm going to use for the collar that is on this kimono jacket. And then I have my lining here. I chose black because I just want all of the colors for them to be the same. So that is why I chose black. So I have my lining here, which is 3 yards, because that's what I intend to use from this. So now I'm going to fold the fabric, and then okay guys, so I folded my fabric. So you see the way I slanted my fabric to an angle. So this is how I'm going to cut. So the next thing I'm going to do, and I'm going to show you how I folded, and then I have some couple of lines here. So the full length of my kimono jacket is actually 40 inches. So this is the 40 inches. The allowance is included. Normally is about 37 inches. So I added 3 inches extra. 1 inch to connect the shoulder part, and then 2 inches for the down part. So I have altogether 40 inches. So what I did, so for the first line I have here, this is the shoulder line, and then from this point to this is my bust line, and then this is my waistline, which is 17, and then the hip line is 26, and then I have the full length, which is 40, just like I said. And on this part here is what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut out this back. This is the back piece, and then I'll use it to cut out the front, and then before I'll cut out a little portion from the front where I'm going to attach my collar. So I want the kimono jacket, I want it to wrap around me properly. So that is why I'm not going to really be cutting out so much from it. So I want it to wrap around me. So the first thing I'm going to do on the shoulder part, my shoulder normally is 14 inches. So I'm going to add an extra 1 inch to it. Since it is a kimono, I don't want it to start from the top part of my shoulder. Let it come out a little bit. So I'm going to use 15 inches, which is 7.5. So I'm going to mark the 7.5 like this, and then I'm going to add 1 inch allowance, which I'm going to use to stitch. So from this point like this, I'm just going to come, and then I'm going to mark about 7.5 inches, which I'm going to use for my armhole. Okay, so the fold that I did, I used the biggest part of my fold is actually the down part, which is 18 inches. So I folded at 18 inches. So note, and then this top part is 12.5 inches. So that's the fold that I used to fold out this dress. So from this point now, I'm just going to draw a straight line like this. Okay, I'm just going to take a straight line to the 7.5 inches, and then I'll mark out the armhole like this. So that's the armhole. The next measurement I'm going to impute the bust measurement. So the bust measurement that I'm using is 40 inches. My allowance is included. So when I'm making a kimono like this, what I will do, normally you can do it in 2 ways. You can decide to use the person's regular measurement and then add allowance to it, or you can decide to just measure the person, how free the kimono will be or the jacket will be on the person. So for this, I decided to measure how free it's going to be. So the bust part, I'm going to use 40 inches. So you divide 40 into 4. So sorry, for beginners, the shoulder, you divide it into 2. So that's how I got the 7.5 on this point, which is 15. So for this point now, use 40 inches. This is 10. You divide into 4, and then I'm going to add about 2 inches or 2.5 inches allowance to it. So from this point like this, I'm just going to connect it like this. And then the next measurement I'm going to measure, this is my waistline measurement. So I'm going to check what I have here. I have 13 inches right now. Okay, I have about, okay, no, it's not up to 13. That's 12.5. So I'm just going to bring it down to this point. I'm going to add 1 inch to what I have. So on this point, and I'm going to have about 13.5, so I can make it 14. So I'm just using the freeness of how I want my kimono to be. That's what I'm using. So I'm just going to slant it now. On the waistline, I have 14 inches. So from this point also now, that 14 inches, I'm going to bring it here to the hip line, and then I'm going to increase it again. I'm going to make on my hip side, I'm going to make it about 16 inches. So I will slant it like this also. And then this part, I'm just going to maintain it. For the down part, initially I told you that I used 18 inches. So I'm just going to maintain it up to that 18 inches. I'll create the slant like this. So to get that flare effect. So I'm going to cut out now before we cut out the neckline. So for this part, I actually slanted out this part a little bit because when you're trying to take the full measurement, this is 40 inches, so you see it's up to this point. So I'm measuring it straight like this. So this part is a little bit slanted. So I'll cut it out right now. Okay, so you see what I have now. So the next thing I'm going to do now, this you can actually make it as big as you want. So I'm going to cut out the front piece also. I'm just going to fold my fabric again. Okay, so I've cut out both the back and the front together now. So the next thing we're going to do now, we're going to work on the neckline now for this our kimono jacket. So for the back neckline, I'm going to cut the back neckline first. So I could, okay, so I'm just going to use this. So for the back neckline, I'm going to use about 3 inches or 3.5 inches. Yeah, about 3.5 inches is okay. And then the width that I'm going to use, that's the depth that I'm going to use. I'm going to use about 1.5 inches. So this is the 1.5 inches. You're just going to curve it, just curve it like this. And then from this point now, we're going to slope it down like this. So you use 1 inch or 1.5 inch or half inch, you slope it like this. So that's for the back neckline. I've not cut it out already. So the next thing I'm going to do now, so the same thing, I'm going to repeat it here. The same thing. So for this point also, I'm going to still use this 3.5. That's for the front neckline like this. 3.5. And then I'm going to still do the shoulder slope on this point. And then I'll slope it together. So let's cut out the back right now. Like this. And then like this. Okay. So for the front, so I've marked the 3.5 inches here already. The next thing I'm going to do now, we're going to open the front of the front piece. That's the center. We're going to open it up. So this part, if you want a kimono that is open, there are some that it does not really wrap properly on you. You can actually decide to cut as much as 5 inches away. That's as much as you could use about 5 inches and width. And then you cut it out from this neckline point. You measure up to 5 inches and then you cut out as much as 5 inches. So with that, it's just going to be like normal jacket. The front is going to be open. But like I said, if you see this picture, you see that the dress is a little bit wrapped over. So what we're cutting out is not going to be much. So with this, I'm going to use the 3.5 inches mark on the neckline part. That's what I'm going to cut out. 3.5, and this 3.5, when I cut out this 3.5, when I'm creating my collar, I'm going to use about 3 inches and collar or 2.5 inches collar. So with that, when I put on the dress, when I tie it, it's going to wrap and cover me. So I don't necessarily need to put on a trouser or a pants underneath. So it's going to be okay. So, but if you cut as much as 5 inches, I'm just trying to explain much. If you cut as much as 5 inches, the whole front is going to be open, and then you have to wear something obvious under it. So I hope you get it. So from this 3.5 inches point like this now, so let's cut out our shoulder slope first before we continue. Okay, so from this point now, I'm going to use that same 3.5. I'm just going to mark it on all of my points like this. I'm going to mark it down to the hemline. So I'm going to use my straight ruler like this. So you can decide on the down part, you can decide to do this in another way. When it's getting to the down, you can decide to reduce a little bit. You can decide to make that part maybe 3 inches, so it will have this kind of slanted effect. So you can actually do that. So I'm just trying to make sure that I get it properly before cutting off. You know, I'm not working with a pattern. So on this down part, I reduced this down part to about 3 inches, like I said. And then from this hip line also is 3 inches. And then on this waistline also it is 3 inches. Then but from this bust line and to the neckline is 3.5 inches. So I'm going to cut it out right now. Okay, so I've cut it out right now. So with this now, when I sew my kimono jacket, once I replace back with this, it's going to cover properly. So the next thing I'm going to do now, so this is my front piece. I'm going to cut out my lining because I want to give it a full lining. That is what is going to give it structure and it will make it firm. So I'll cut out my lining for both the back and then the front piece. And then I'm going to go and start stitching. So I'm just going to explain how the stitch is going to be like. So you see what I have, you see the flaredness of the dress. So I'll open up the front piece now for you to see. So you see how it's going to look like. So it's going to look like this. So what I'm going to go and do now, I'll cut my line and then I'm going to join on the neckline, on the shoulder line, and then join this part also, and then I will join this side. So for the side, I'm just joining it normal. I'll use half inch or quarter of an inch to join. So I'll join here, and then join this side. So I'll go up and do that, and then we'll come back and measure out the collar. So we'll okay guys, so you could see my flared kimono jacket. So I finished joining with my lining. So you could see I've turned it already out with my lining already. So the next thing I'm going to do, so if you don't want to line this dress, you can actually decide not to line it. All you have to do is you just stitch it from the inside. That's stitch the side seam and then the shoulder. You can decide to do it that way if you don't want to put a lining on it. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to show you how to cut out the straight collar that we're going to use to run through the entire neckline. So in doing that, what you are going to do, I'm just going to take my tape like this, and then I'm going to measure from the down part all through the neckline to the other side of the dress. So here's what I'm going to do like this. So once I got to 50 inches, because I know that it's longer than my tape, I'll stop and then I'll continue the remaining part of the measurement. So you can decide to take it up to 60. And then at the end of the day, I have about 34 inches. So that's 50 plus 34. That's about 84 inches. So that is what the length of fabric that I'm going to cut out for my straight collar. So in cutting out the straight collar, you know, initially when we were cutting out the neckline, we actually cut out from the top part. It was 3.5 inches. Then when it got to from the waistline down, it now became 3 inches. So you can decide to just use 3.5 entirely, or you can decide to use 3 inches entirely. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use 3 inches entirely. So the top part of this part will just be a little bit, it will not be fully covered, but it will not be open. So with this, if I'm replacing it back, my kimono jacket will wrap around me properly. So with that, it's going to cover properly. So I'm going to fold my fabric now, and then I'm going to cut. So I'm going to cut out 2 straps from this. That's, I'll fold like this and then cut out. I'm going to join them together because I won't be able to, my fabric is not as long as what I have. So I'll just fold and then cut out now, iron it, and then come back and show you. Okay guys, so you can see, so I've cut out my strap. So this is the part where I joined it together and then I folded. So the strap is actually on fold. So when you are cutting, you cut it on fold. So like I said, I cut 3 inches on fold. So when you open it up, that means it is 6 inches. So the next thing I'm going to do now, I'm going to take the center of this piece like this. I'm going to make a notch at the middle. So this is the middle. I'll just make a notch here like this. And then I'm going to take the dress, that's my kimono jacket also. I want to make a notch at the center. So I'll join this part together and then I'll take it like this. I'm just going to stretch it out nicely. So I'll make sure that the shoulder, they are matching, and then this point also is matching. So I'll just put a notch here. So the next thing I'm going to do now, I'm going to go and start stitching my collar on it. So this part, you just use a straight seam just to secure it down, since we are going to attach a collar, so you really don't need to turn it with a lining. That's the front part. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to take my strap like this, and then I'll look for the center, and then I'm going to start fixing it. It's really simple and easy. Okay, so this is where my notch is. I'll take this now, also where I have my notch here, and then I'm going to match them together, and then I'm going to join it like this from this point like this. I'll take it straight to the hemline. So you could see that I have some excess here, so I did it that way. So once I'm done, I'm going to cut out my excess, and then I'll open it up, and then I'll iron it, and then this part I'll use an overlock seam. So I'll go and do that right now, and then I'll come back and show you before we continue to cut out the sleeves. Okay guys, so you will see, so I finished fixing it. So at the end of the day, so you can decide to use a stitch to stitch it from this point down, but I don't want the thread to show on this side. If not, you can decide to do a top stitch. You just use a clean stitch to stitch it down like this neatly to secure it down, but I actually don't want to do that, so I left it this way. So the dress is looking so beautiful. I just tried it on earlier on, and it was just looking so pretty even without the sleeves on yet. So you can actually make this like a sleeveless, it will still work. So the next thing we're going to do now, we're going to cut out our sleeves. So the sleeve now, what I'm going to do, I will cut the lining first. I'm just going to cut the lining. It's just in the regular and straight sleeve. You can decide to make it the down part a little bit flay. You can just decide to just make it a block sleeve like that. So it is a long sleeve. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to measure the length of the sleeve that I want. So the length of the sleeve is actually 23. So 23 inches. I'm going to measure it exactly 23. Why? Because I'm going to use my remaining satin to create a turn up just to close the edges. So that's what I'm going to do now. So I'm just going to do a freehand sleeve. So from this point I'm going to come, so the width that I'm going to be using, I'm using my entire width, which is 13. So this is 13 inches now. So from this point now, what I have down here, I have about 11 inches. It's okay. So from this point, I'm just going to come, for those that don't know how to do freehand sleeve, this is how you do it. So I'll use about 5 inches or 5.5 inches. So just mark it like this, and from this point you're just going to give it just a clean, it's very simple, just a clean cut slant like this. You just slant it to this point. I'm just so excited. At times when you are doing freehand, just go sharp sharp. And just give it a clean slant like this. So, and then the next thing, you are going to measure to make sure that you have the width of what you want. That's your round armhole. So when you are doing a freehand, always take note. So you measure around this point and then make sure it's going to correspond with this part. So the next thing I'm going to do now, I'm going to come to this point. I'm just going to measure. So like I said, I'm using this my entire width that I have here. So from this point, I'm just going to make like a slant like this. So this down part also, I'm going to measure. So I'm going to make it 20 inches, which is 10. I'm just looking at it if I should make it even a little bit bigger. 10, that is about 20 inches. So this is how the width of the sleeve is going to be like. So I think it is okay. 20 inches is okay. You understand? It is okay. So from this point now, I'm just going to follow this slant like this. So you can decide to use your ruler to just do that. It's just a simple sleeve. It's really simple, you know. So that is how easy our block sleeve is. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to cut it out. So I folded the two together, the both sleeves. So I folded into 4 parts. So I'm just going to do this. And then I'll do this. Okay, so you see how simple our sleeve is. This is just like the simplest and easiest way to cut out this sleeve when you are using the freehand. Okay, so now the next thing we are going to do now, I'm going to the same thing that I did. I'm going to use my remaining satin. I'm going to fold about, this time I'm going to use about 2.5 inches. So let me just check. Let me see what I have before I continue. Let me not say 2.5 and at the end of the day. Okay, see, I got it. I have 2.5 inches. So that's what I'm going to use to fold the down part of my sleeve. So this now will transfer to my fabric. Okay, so I finished cutting the sleeve. So I'm going to explain what I did to getting up to this point. So what I did was I just placed my lining. So this is the wrong side of my fabric, this is the right side. So I just placed the lining on the wrong side of the lining of the fabric. That's the lining. And then I just stitched around it. I stitched it just to secure it. And then this is the piece that I cut. That's the satin that I showed you earlier, that I said 2.5 inches. So I just placed the satin on the wrong side also. So you know it was folded into 2, so I placed it on the wrong side. So here's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to take this satin like this now. So now this is the right side of my fabric. I'm just going to take this point like this. I'll iron this point down. You can decide to use a seam just to stitch it down. You can decide to do it that way. And then I'm just going to turn it like this, and then I will iron it down. So at the end of the day, after ironing it, so you see the inside, how neat and clean it is looking. I will iron it down, and then I would go and stitch. After ironing it like this, I will fold like this, and then I'll run a stitch on the side of the seam of the sleeve like this. I'll just run a stitch. You know, I'm using 10 inches, so I'll just use 1/4 inch just to secure it down, and then I'll have my sleeve. So after securing it down, at the end it's going to look like this. So you see the sleeve is going to be looking neat, and then it's turned up, and then this part is so neat and clean. So it's going to look like this, and then I would go ahead and then I'll fix the sleeve. I'll fix it to my kimono jacket. This point is going to stay like this. I'm going to stitch around like this to secure it, and then we're done. So I'll just once I'm done, I'll place it on the mannequin for you to see the final look of the kimono jacket. Okay guys, so at the end of the day you will see our kimono jacket. So it actually came out very and beautifully well. So at the end of the day, this was what I was trying to tell you. So you could see how wrapped it is. So it's wrapped around the body perfectly well, that you don't need to wear anything underneath, as in like a trouser. If you want to, you can, but you can actually wear this and then you still be able to walk and it will not open up because it is really wrapped around. So you see the extent of it inside, and then the front, even the front, this top part also, you see it is well covered. So you see how beautiful. So you see the back, how beautiful it is looking, and then the sleeve. So guys, if you find this video illustration helpful, I would appreciate if you hit on the like button, and if you have not subscribed to Stylish Naija YouTube channel, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and then give this video a like. Just hit on the like button to make me know you appreciate what I did, guys. So thank you so much. I'm so excited, and this dress actually turned out well. So thank you so much. I'll see you in my next video. God bless you. Bye. Ciao.